Hello, I'm Dr. Michael King, and I am very much hoping that you will want to fund this vital project with far-reaching implications for you and for the generations that will follow you. The link to my Indiegogo fundraising campaign is at the end of this video. I am a physician and pioneer in the research and treatment of shame, which permeates our culture and is at the core of social oppression. It is also the primary tool or weapon used in abuse and the foundation necessary for trauma or post-traumatic stress disorder. In many ways, shame is the source of most human suffering. It is the instinct to hide and play dead, to become invisible in the presence of a potential predator, originally animals, today mostly people, and to be frozen and immobilized in a state of non-action. Shame is also the true and complete mental, physical, and emotional opposite of love. Therefore, shame blocks loving interpersonal relationships as well as social organization to resist human predators. The writing of both Hide and Play Dead and Shame on You began on January 3rd, 2010, and was completed in about 5 months. But the foundation of the books took place over a 25-year span of testing, study, and experimentation. The first book to be published, Hide and Play Dead, was also revised nearly 20 times before I felt it was ready for release. One of the goals of that first book was to heal myself from PTSD. By the end of the book, I had become fully individuated and freed from shame-based behaviors that had been passed down from ancestral slavery for generations since emancipation. It was not just the writing, though, that worked the miracle of my psychic healing. I used all of the techniques and knowledge that readers will both learn about and experience in Shame on You. So my journey, or our collective journey, to freedom from social oppression is probably eternally ongoing and will have no end as long as the human race remains at our current stage of evolution. The book I'm asking you to help fund, again called Shame on You, Freedom from Social Oppression, is a summary and a critique of both historical and current social oppression in America and around the world. But it goes far beyond just a description of oppression. It is a seminal work that instigates personal and cultural change. In our majority-minority nation, most people have experienced some form of rejection or abuse in the workplace, at home, or within a social institution. Many have a history of ancestral slavery or subjugation, and many more are currently enslaved or are about to be enslaved. This is due to the schism of wealth and corporate control of almost all of our social institutions. Shame on You is also the second phase of an astonishing project for social engineering. It is an advanced self-help book designed to be experienced more than simply read. My work teaches people how to recognize toxic shame and abuse, reverse or repel trauma and oppression, and reinvoke the state of blissful love, and then to engage in healthy, loving, and trustworthy relationships. To get off the radar screen of human predators and to quickly get out of an abusive or exploitative situation are critical for our survival. Shame on You is also a landmark treatise. Many academicians consider it to be a quantum leap and paradigm shift for the combined social, biological, and political sciences. But freedom from subtle and obvious manipulation and oppression is difficult to achieve, especially when our brains have been warped by child-rearing practices, educational systems, corporate indoctrination, and institutional propaganda. And after the early 20s, when the major socially induced alteration of the brain occurs, the human brain becomes increasingly imbalanced due to stress, causing cynicism, prejudice, self-doubt, compulsions, restricted social lives, remorse, and postponed gratification of our essential human needs, which all tend to dominate human consciousness. So there has to be a cure. And Shame on You launches a highly effective therapy system and a writing technology, both of which change the structure of the human brain. The format of my first book was that of a memoir-driven nonfiction novel fused with the real-time adventure story of my self-discovery. It was action-oriented, lots of narrative, dramatic emotional appeal, and it will probably soon become a film or a television docudrama. The goal was to reach a global audience. Hide and Play Dead, the first book, in truth is also a riveting expose and a psychological thriller. It's filled with international intrigue and startling revelations. By the end of the book, both the reader and I realize that neo-slavery has finally returned to both America and Europe. We already know that blatant slavery has been present in the Third World for a very, very long time. Now, in the first book, the treatise on shame and its therapy is unconsciously embedded within the book. So with the second book, whatever may have been left dangling, mysterious, unclear, or unconscious in the first will be spelled out and brought into full consciousness. The second book demonstrates therapeutic principles and produces massive change in the reader's neurological structure using both the hidden writing technology and voluntary exercises. So as a duet, the first two books are carefully constructed to accomplish many literary, academic, socio-political, and visionary goals. And together, both books are the literary equivalent of the Trojan horse, with an ability to enter into the citadels of corporate power that rules over the free world and threatens our democracy and our multi-class society with a staggering concentration of power and wealth, a gaping schism of wealth that is reminiscent of feudal states in the Dark Ages. The second book is about 90% finished at this time. It will be a bit more academic than the first, but easily read by anyone with a high school level of education. The writing style is sometimes humorous, sometimes emotional, sometimes provocative, but always very profound in a reader-friendly way. Specifically, the new book will spell out in detail the psychobiology of shame, abuse, trauma, and the methodology of social oppression. It will address the developmental history of constricted personality options based on shame-inducing child-rearing practices, and it will present a powerful process to reverse this primary cause of human suffering. The values that are driving this project are the values that I believe we all share as citizens. There are humanitarian ideals. The induction of toxic shame is at the core of human suffering, as I have said before. It strips the individual of the capacity for life's greatest pleasure, love. It prepares one for neo-slavery. It is also the foundation of most disease states. The advancement of science. The series of books presents a paradigm shift, perhaps greater than Einstein's theory of relativity, in the combined fields of the biological, social, and political sciences. And it presents direct applications for the medical treatment of otherwise chronic, disabling, and incurable diseases and emotional disorders. The next step in human evolution. This book hones in on the neuroanatomy of oppression and the fatal imbalance of the most evolved parts of the human brain, the prefrontal lobes. These regions are ripe for further development aided by modern technology. My writing and technological devices are able to rebalance the prefrontal cortex with corresponding effects on the emotional brain and the brain stem, which lead to a greater integration of the three houses of our neuroanatomy. Positive social change. Lingering issues of overt racism, abusive child-rearing practices and educational systems, reforming the criminal justice system, equity for one's labor, and virtually any major challenge to society are related to ending abuse, trauma, and social oppression. What we're talking about is no less than the greatest crisis in America since the Civil War, and the greatest threat to Europe since perhaps World War II. And this is not a conspiracy theory. Politicians, researchers, economists, and the worldwide public is aware of the risks that we face. UNESCO's report to the World Bank has led to the crisis being highlighted in recent months. I posted a few excerpts from the book on Facebook and received a stunning amount of responses and interest across the globe. Hundreds of people loved the book. Thousands were talking about it, and tens of thousands were moved by it. But one thing moved me was the personal response from many people who know about oppression firsthand. An email came to me. My name is Eunice Diane, and I am 24 years old from Côte d'Ivoire in West Africa. I am presently residing in a refugee camp here in Dakar, Senegal, as a result of the civil war going on in my country. My late father, Dr. Barnabas Diane, was a prominent and successful businessman and politician under the government of late General Robert Gué, the former head of state, before the rebels attacked my house early one morning, killing my mother and killing my father. It was only me that is alive now, and I managed to make my way to the nearby country Senegal, where I am now living. I hope earnestly to hear from you at the soonest. Thanks, Eunice. I believe the time has come that we need a core group of persons who are charged up and attuned to altruistic social approach and engagement behavior. This is going to come from rebalancing the prefrontal lobes. We need the American and global masses, the common economically enslaved or impoverished majority. We need the bourgeoisie and professional classes, small entrepreneurs thwarted by corporate dominance, frustrated by declining assets and influence. And we also need the intelligentsia whose right to study and research must not be determined by corporate sponsors. Shame on You is specifically written to target these three groups. And remember, no social reformist movement has ever been possible without the cooperation and involvement of these three groups. The next stages of this brain-freeing and paradigm-shifting project, well, they sound simple, but they will take work. I am preparing for the debut of an anti-oppression medical specialty, taking medicine out of just the clinic and into the social realms where much of disease is eradicated. Also, I will be implementing trans-cranial electrical stimulation technology and other inventions, advancing medicine by many decades. I am starting a social blitz of public engagements, further writing, and other strategies to help bolster social movements tackling the greatest threat to individual freedom in modern history. Well, many people consider this stepwise and peaceful project capable of penetrating and confronting the global elite of corporate power without a violent revolution. It's the sort of technology that Martin Luther King or Gandhi or Nelson Mandela might have endorsed. I hope you will contribute generously to this book and this project. Thank you.